person happens to be 64, you just can't move to where Lindsay wants us to go overnight. You have to be realistic about this. And what I would argue is that if you take what Lindsay says literally and in a pure form, he will never get there. But if we move, whatever moves us closer to where he wants to be, is worth doing. The thing is that we do have a real problem in New Zealand. We really, in some ways, have the same sort of problem that I faced in the 80s, but it's different. If we in New Zealand want to solve the economic problems that we confront at the moment, then you need to solve 4 areas, and they're all social policy areas. We need to deal to education. We need to deal to health. We need to deal to welfare. And we need to deal to retirement. And when we talk about retirement, let us not talk just about pensions, because it isn't just about pensions. It is about health care. Because if you look at the pension cost, it's going like that, but the health care cost is going like that. About 50% of health care costs in New Zealand at the moment are spent on the retired or those close to retirement. And those numbers are going to double, and it's quite scary. You mightn't know it, but if you relate health care costs to personal tax, this year, and this is the budget numbers, not the lower numbers we're actually getting, 54 cents in every dollar of personal tax that you pay goes to health care expenditure. So I'm sorry, it's not free. If you're on the average wage, you're paying $6,000. For those of you who are substantially over the average wage, think what your health care cost is costing. Your superannuation cost is 33 cents in the dollar. If you're on the average wage, that's $4,000. If you bank that over 47 years, in gross terms, not in, it would come in at 6 or 7% interest, well over $1 million. In real terms, it would be something less. And your unemployment and your sickness costs are around $2,000. So this is where we are, and what do we need to do about it? Because I think unless we tackle welfare, education, health, and retirement issues, we've got no chance at all of catching Australia. By the way, I told you it was 54 cents in the dollar this year. Do you know what it was 3 years ago? How much of your personal tax was going to pay for the health costs of New Zealanders? 40 cents in the dollar. So in 2 to 3 years, it's gone from 40 cents to 54. For 6 years under a Labor government, the productivity of doctors in our health system went down 15%. We better do something about it, and nurses by 11. We have real trouble in this country, and we better realise it. So what am I saying? Am I for compulsion? Well, you could say that. Lindsay might say that. I would say I'm for compulsion, yes, on one hand, but you could also say I'm for a voluntary system on the other. My system is quite simple, really. Maybe if I come out. Can you hear me, Phil? What I really do tomorrow...
take your mic, Phil.
Can I take the mic? Shall I take the mic? Okay. I don't probably feel better getting away from that. What would I do if I had the chance of being able to be a bit dictator for a year? What I'd essentially do, it's all about health, it's all about education, welfare, and retirement. What I would do, and we'll see whether Lindsay calls me a compulsionist or a voluntary man later when we get to the question time. But essentially what I'd do is I would say, we'll take single people because it's easier to illustrate. I'll make some comment about people with families. By single I mean you have no dependents. I would come up with a figure probably somewhere between $30,000 and $35,000, and I'd make it tax-free. You'd have a choice, actually, because there is a catch if it's tax-free. You can stay. If you're Lindsay or Jim Anderton, you'd stay where you are, and you can actually stay at $35,000 and pay your current level of taxes. And if you elect to do that, you'll get your old age pension. You'll get the lousy health system, lousy education system, but for your children when you do have them. Or you can have the first 30 to 35,000, let's say 35,000 tax-free. But there is a catch to it. If you take it as tax-free, you have to do three things. You have to buy your accident and sickness cover. You have to buy your catastrophic health cover. You look after the minor things, but if you have a major accident, you have major, problems, say cancer, and you're in the hospital for months and have to have a serious operation, then you're covered. Not covered for going to the doctor, etc. You have to do that, and for the balance of your tax savings, you save. You have to save that towards your retirement until you have got enough money in the bank to look after your income and be able to buy a health care cover in retirement. After that, it's totally optional, and you at that stage can take it and spend it, or alternatively you continue to save. That avoids the freeloader problem. And frankly, unless we deal with a freeloader problem, we're not in this world. And that's where I differ from Lindsay, absolutely. We leave this hall, and Lindsay's a politician, and he'd probably say he would now, and there's a bus and one of you get run over, you're lying in the gutter, you're dying, and you don't have a health policy because you didn't think it would ever happen to you. Would you let that person die? The TV cameras, Lindsay Perigo's there as the interviewer, and he's got Ruth Richardson or whoever the politician, John Key, doesn't matter, flip-flop John, he's got him there and he says, are you going to let this person die? And of course he says, I'm not. And we need to be realistic about this. We need not to have a freeloader. And I agree with Lindsay, let's just go to the level that the government would provide, get the compulsory, get the catastrophic cover and what have you. And I think this country would be a whole lot better.
Thank you, gentlemen. We enjoyed, firstly, the fact that you're prepared to front us and talk about topics which, in most offices, families, schools and places in New Zealand, these topics do not get discussed. They need to be discussed. We need to have rigorous, vigorous debate. We need to have passion on the right, on the left and in the centre. And with that, we will get a better outcome for this country. It's certainly what we at FSB4 Financial believe needs to happen. So thank you, gentlemen, and could you please thank them again.